Hello, everybody. Welcome. This is Lessons for Full Spectrum Humans. This is October 13th. This is the level 2 recording, and this is all about flying rainbow lasagna, the advanced conception of creating a new form of matter that is the combination, the seamless integration of energy, or we can also call it spirit, or we can also call it pure consciousness and matter. So I explained in level 1, and forgive me to anyone who finds this repetitive, the idea of Einstein's equation. The equal sign is my face. We have energy on one side and mass on the other side, and these are in dualistic opposition. Dualism. I've spoken about this before, how the flying rainbow lasagna is the tool that we can use to transcend dualism. Hey, we've got two eyes on our face. I1 versus I2, and the tiny little differences between these two viewpoints in my face are used for my brain, does these complex calculations in order to determine where objects are in space. We all do this. If everybody who is binocular rather does this. If you have two eyes, most people have binocular vision and see by making these complex calculations based upon this eye versus this eye. It's dualism. And in the eye, in the actual retina, what we have are dualism because we have cells that butt next to one another, and one of them will be stimulated and the other one will be anti-stimulated. So we have, I'm seeing light, I'm not seeing light. And these two cell signals that are sent to the brain create the idea of seeing an edge. Like here, you can see the edge of my ear because you have one cell that is being stimulated and another cell that is not being stimulated. So we have developed this whole view of reality, very much based in the biology of the container that we wear, based on duality. We've got thing versus thing, and there's more duality. I've said this many times. I'm repeating it though for right now. Ego or self versus the world, self versus context. So most of this happens when little babies, little infants or tiny children are exploring themselves and exploring the world. They're like, hey, I touched my face. Hey, I felt that. And then like, hey, I touched my pillow or I touched my crib. I didn't feel that. Or I put something in my mouth. Oh, like, hey, I bite down, but I don't feel that. Now I put my hand in my mouth. I bite down, I feel it. This is how we begin to develop this sense of the world, self versus world. And that's an effective and essential level of development in being able to navigate the time field, but it's not the end of our development. Like, we're not supposed to stop at the realizations that we had in infancy, which are basically the idea that, oh, I'm not exactly the same as my context. We're supposed to transcend that story of duality. So we have the epidermis. This is like our narrative fiction. What's inside of my epidermis is different than what's outside of my epidermis. And my ego is like defining characteristics of who I am and who I am. I'm definitely not any of you guys out there. Like, I'm definitely me. I'm not any of you guys out there. So in the webinar about non-religious Christ consciousness, this idea of our inner eye being a telepathic receiver and broadcaster. And that what we're starting to become when we become a respectful, loving telepathic community is that we are combining together our minds and our emotional experiences. Like the TV show Sense8 is worthwhile in investigating these or exploring these in a narrative structure. The idea of many individuated people who get connected and who can share their thoughts, their feelings, and even their talents and skills. But I would say, not to take that show too literally, that what we're really supposed to do is be combining every single person on earth. And imagine that. So really imagine how transformative, just shifting around here, how transformative your priorities would have to shift if you really felt everybody else's pain as if it was your own pain, and everybody else's joy as if it were your own joy. That level of connectivity would mean that we are way more profoundly caring about, like, I care about whether that guy over there is suffering or starving because it makes me feel bad if I hear him suffering or starving. And I do this very much with my justification. I know we got a truck outside the window. With my justification of being here as Aurora, I'm a galactic visitor, and sharing the flying rainbow lasagna. Like, Aurora, why don't you just think your flying rainbow lasagna thoughts in your own world? Like, why do you feel compelled to make a sculpture and make a video and share it with other people? And the idea is that I find this to be an empowering tool and something that has helped me in my life in order to, first of all, be alive, be healthy and vital in my body, be able to choose the timelines and the experiences that I want to be on, and that it's it's a good tool for transforming your flight through time. And you can even ask this, Aurora, you want to be on this timeline? And I'm telling you, yes, that my my barometer for whether I'm on a good timeline. Like, I know there are many other timelines where I might be way more rich, I might have way more physical money, I might have a golden toilet, but maybe there's some kind of a horrible catastrophe that, you know, wipes out civilization, or a nuclear war, or any of those levels of catastrophic destruction that many people fear. That would not necessarily be the best timeline for me to be on. So this is the level 2 class. You're all experts, so I'll just draw the time field. If this is the time field, you know, that little lower quadrant, and we're navigating this, and I've got this, let's make a different color. I've got this bright blue central core timeline that I want to be on. It's like, I'm on this timeline here. It might not be the timeline where you have the most money in your wallet. That might be one of these timelines where you actually hit into the membrane of death. And you're like, hey, you know, I had a bunch of money, but it didn't exactly help because the entire planet was destroyed, or because, you know, there was a horrible plague, or there was, you know, any of these things that didn't work out. So yes, here are the parameters that I use to determine a good timeline. My body is healthy and vital, and so is the planet healthy and vital. So I spoke about in level 1 this idea of ascension, and I should have said also that there's this programming that comes from the end of the Bible, the book of Revelations, that biblical literalists really do believe this, and is the idea of the eschaton, or the end of days, end of the world, and your personal eschaton. So Christianity is different than Judaism, and Christianity is an outgrowth of Judaism. Judaism did not have a teaching about what afterlife was. They just said, you know, you're living here on earth, and then when you die, you go to a gray wandering place, kind of similar to the bardo of the ancient, you know, the Far Eastern Tibetans, and did not formally recognize afterlife. And Christianity came along and said, oh yeah, after you die, you go here, or you go here, or blah, blah happens, or this happens. And this whole idea of navigating your life based upon where, you know, that, and then making your choices about where you will go when you die. Gotta drink water. So Christianity programmed in this concept, in the sense that individual must die in order to have immortal life, you know, continued life through the time field, and that our planet and our society has to die. This is the book of Revelations. It says, oh, you have to have a cleansing, like a firestorm that burns everything out, purifies everything, wipes it clean, and then we can start anew and finally have a diamond jubilee with everybody being happy. And those are very damaging programs that are running in this time and place right now. This idea that you personally have to die in order to, quote unquote, go to heaven and achieve eternal life, or that our planet needs to be destroyed, or that the biosphere on our planet needs to be destroyed in order to get rid of the wicked, or get rid of the inadequate, or get rid of the people that aren't supposed to be here. And I'm like, no, no, no on any of that. We don't have to burn down the house that we live in just so that we can build a better house. We can transform the house that we are in while we are living in it. So that's the idea that I put forth in level 1 teaching about ascension. I did that recording for the teachable lesson in 2013. It was just after 2012. Lots of people were talking about ascension, and that term has become a bit hijacked. And so there's different ideas about whether you're leaving the planet, going somewhere else. And what I'm trying to say is that this is your vessel or your starship that you can use to travel through the fields of time, space, and consciousness. Thank you so much. I see someone is leaving. Thank you so much, Anne. Yes, I appreciate everyone who tunes in, who takes even a bit of time, and you can always catch the archive, because we are musicians playing together. I don't want to just be a garage musician playing my own Flying Rainbow Lasagna music with no one else around. If you're a musician, you know this is true. Like, you can practice on your own. It's way more fun when you bounce things off of other people. When you know, send out some beats, send out some music, and then someone else creates melody and you jam together. I'm looking for and encouraging other people. Hello, welcome. I see Annette is joining in, to also play beautiful music with you, and that it's way more fun than trying to integrate and play. I'm going to play some horrible music now. That's not good music, that I don't want to try to integrate with musicians like that. So I don't keep this a proprietary secret. I share it encouragingly, wonderfully with other people, and I want everybody to learn to be a genetic virtuoso. So what we're talking about now in the level 2 teaching is the idea of transforming our definition of matter. I often describe this as a birth process, because I don't necessarily want to call it like we're battling. I get so exhausted. I'm so exhausted battling. But giving birth, I think, is a bit more positive, and it also, you know, shows that we're doing something, moving towards something, not just merely fighting against something. But yes, we are fighting to transform. And part of what we are doing here is changing our definition of what the material world is. So objective materialism, this is the description that came out of the 1600s, and scientists like Sir Isaac Newton. And Sir Isaac Newton said, I just want to observe the world with my five senses. I want to look at things with my eyes or with a microscope or measure them with a ruler. And then I want to base my idea of the story of how life fits together based upon those five senses type of things. And that's objective materialism. It was valuable and it was better than superstition, but it's not everything, because it doesn't include the idea that we have non-physical senses and that we can sense things that are non-physical, like emotions and even intellectual ideas. How much do your thoughts weigh? That's another really good question, because science doesn't even recognize that, thoughts can be a structure that exists independent from the container of consciousness that thinks them. So, what all about your thoughts. So the idea is that you profoundly affect your reality. Now let's get into the fourth dimension and the fifth dimension. So we're refining our terms on what ascension is. Ascension to me does not mean a biblical literalist rapture, and it doesn't mean that we need to have the eschaton, that everyone's like, maybe a giant volcano will blow up and then we'll all get to go to heaven. I really don't advocate for that, because what we've got is another opportunity instead. How about this instead? What if everybody dances like a flying rainbow lasagna, and then everybody recognizes and remembers that they're all divine gods in a physical body? And being in a physical body is not a disempowered state at all. It's actually a very empowered state. Think about that. If you need to lift up a pencil and move it over here, I've got a hand and an arm. I can do that. If I didn't have a physical body, I couldn't do that. If you need to say something, if you need to make something, if you need to play some music, you have a physical body that you can do stuff with here. And if you don't have a physical body, theoretically, you cannot be powerful in the physical realm. But those occupiers of the interstices, the bad musicians who smash their guitars on stage, they're like, oh, we'll just find a loophole. We'll just stay here on the interstices and we will be like the peanut gallery, trying to influence the musicians while they're doing their work. So that's why I say I always encrypt my DNA. When I'm doing my flying rainbow lasagna dance, this is like making the dice of reality roll so that we can rearrange the possible events that we are experiencing. And while I'm doing that, I'm encrypted so that no one else is going to sneak in and rearrange my perfect puzzle pieces. And that, if I finish my puzzle and leave it for display, no one else can come along and be like, oh, I'm just going to take this beautiful health and vitality over here and switch it over here and put something ugly and diseased in that place. So that's what we're doing with that. So now the idea is here in this advanced class, and it's, like I'm seeding ideas into the garden of your mind for them to grow, for you to explore. The idea of covalent bonding over time. How do we combine together spirit and matter? How do we combine? I call this birth of a new dimension, because I don't want it to only be about war. What is this birth like? So we come from matter. This is the root word mother, meaning the material world is the mother or the womb for our consciousness. Just as little tiny, fertilized eggs, we gestated in our physical mother's womb until we were ready to exit that body and have a new experience as an individuated human. In the same exact way, we are in the physical realm of matter. Our consciousness is submerged in the physical realm of matter. I understand that we're on this traumatized planet and that many people find this very uncomfortable. And they're like, I just want to get out of here and go to heaven. But what we can do instead is we can transform the experience of being here into being much more comfortable. It's like saying, I hate wearing shoes because they pinch my feet. You can get shoes that fit, that don't pinch your feet, and then you'll be very happy to have them. This is my whole idea. Ascension, to my definition, does not mean having to go elsewhere, having to travel elsewhere, and it definitely does not have anything to do with getting into a clank metal spaceship or having your consciousness uploaded into some kind of fake-ass virtual reality. I can't tell you enough how that is not interesting to me, because this reality, or let's say the reality of organic, biological, physical matter, is so complex. It's so juicy. Like, as a musician, there's so much richness there to explore that if you just uploaded everything to a virtual reality, you dumb it down a whole lot. Just like analog recording versus digital recording, just go to the whiteboard here for a very basic little, if you are doing analog recording or the type of music that comes off of a like an old-fashioned record player, sound waves look like this. But if you're doing digital recording, you have these little stepped areas that look like this, and you are actually missing out on all this crucial information. Hey, guess what? That's not just in the sonic realm, the auditory realm. If you're doing computer animations and stuff like that, if you have, let's say you have a black background and you just have a little thing moving across a black background, the computer doesn't record every single pixel of the black background. It just records that once and then repeats it endlessly. So imagine if you think, oh, you're going to go to some kind of virtual reality heaven. You're going to get your beautiful, complex, perfect biological consciousness uploaded into some kind of virtual reality mega mainframe so you can quote unquote live forever. But they don't put all the details on all the trees. You know, you're looking at like I'm imagining, like I'm looking at my window, I'm looking at some trees over there, but that's not really the pure structure of trees. They dumbed it down. They took out all of the complexity, all of the molecular motion, because think about this. Every single photon that is here is a photon that's been on a journey and has a history. Imagine, you know, like if you could see where it's been and what it's been doing in its life. Every single photon that's hitting your eye, every single photon or aspect of consciousness that is circulating throughout the biological realm and the mineral realm, all of these have a history. Like electrons have a history. All of these atoms have a history in their behavior. So getting rid of that, it's like dumbing it down. It's getting rid of the smooth curve of the beautiful analog warmth of the old-fashioned records and turning it into a digital, stepped, limited, less juicy, less interesting virtual reality. So let me talk now about flying rainbow lasagna across time. And I didn't share the supplemental homework with this, but I have a cute little video that goes with this that talks about what is covalent bonding. So the idea is if we have, these are meant now to represent atoms, like that's the nucleus of two different atoms, and each atom has its little electron shells that are around it. Let me use different colors for the electron shells. Here's shell 1 and here's shell 2. And this one is the same type of element, so it has the same number of shells. And in these outer shells or areas of excitation that are very analogous to levels of time, yes, it's why I draw these diagrams so that we can all see how similarly shaped all these things are. There's these little electrons flying around these little places out here, and not to get too much into it, there's comfortable numbers of electrons that are supposed to be in each shell. And if this particular atom doesn't have a comfortable number of electrons, it's like a missing puzzle piece. It looks to get that missing puzzle piece. And it gets that missing puzzle piece from a friend over here. Here, this guy's got an electron, this one, this one, this one. So what happens is if, let me make a little spot, like let's say this is a little empty spot there, a little opening that needs a puzzle piece. That guy's like, this atom over here is like, I'm so sad and lonely. I wish that I had something to go over here in my empty puzzle piece space. And this guy over here is like, dun, 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 no problem. I got an empty puzzle piece for you, and connects that to there. And of course, these electrons, they're not static. I know I draw little dots, but they're constantly flowing. They're flowing around. So now what you have, instead of just this guy swirling around like this and this guy swirling around like this, now what you have are two atoms that are connected in these beautiful figure eights. And this is just very simplified description, but this is basically what covalent bonding is in science talk. And it's the idea that you have individuated atoms, atom 1 and atom 2, and that they get stuck together. They form a relationship. First of all, there's a type of intelligence that goes behind this. It's a behavior that is exhibited on the atomic and molecular scale. And there's all sorts of complexities that we can get into. And this is, what chemistry is based upon, gaining and losing electrons and different atoms sticking together as a result. So that is just setting up the backstory for the idea of flying rainbow lasagna-ing as a verb with matter across time. So you've got a bunch of matter in your body right here. And I always call it our beautiful organic multicellular body, because I'm telling you, everyone, I know that there's this heavy program here that says you're ugly and you're disgusting and you're human and you poop and you're not beautiful. And I'm like, no, our bodies are beautiful. Our bodies are beautiful, including all of the microbes that live on the surface and all of the things that live in your tummy and the mites that live on your eyelashes. They're all beautiful. And whether or not whatever you think of your overarching appearance, your body works in a miraculous way, and you have this matter to use with your journey of consciousness. So now let me draw a little body of, let's say this is your body of right now. It just takes me a minute to draw it. So this is your right now body, and we got a little stick figure, and I'm drawing, these are your individual cells, okay, hugely exaggerated, that make up your body of right now. And each one of your cells has, of course, little tiny atoms and molecules in it. Oops, these are supposed to be little circles, just like what I drew before, these little tiny atoms that are in there. And remember last week I spoke about using the flying rainbow lasagna to connect with other people. Like, let's say there's a person in the same time that you live. Oh, I live at the same time, and you can flying rainbow lasagna connect that singularity that is inside of you with the singularity that is inside of them, and you can get some inspiration from their genetic code, right? And I talked about tardigrades, the little woolly bears that do lateral gene transfer, and I even spoke about the idea, now I'm going to put this person, he's small because he's far away in time. I drew that little guy in the background because this is now going into deep antiquity. Let's say this person over here needs some inspiration. I need an idea, I have an empty puzzle piece. I don't know what to think. I don't know what to do. This guy over here has the empty puzzle piece, the thing to fill up the empty puzzle piece. And you can flying rainbow lasagna. Here I am making a very rough flying rainbow lasagna shape between these two people in order to get that little bit of nourishment. And I called this last week the genetic mashup, kind of like making a DJ pastiche of different characteristics across time. Now what we're doing, let me just rewind a little bit here. Now what we're doing is the idea of connecting molecules across time. Here are some atoms that are from a long time ago. And each one, like, let me draw those little shells again. Here's a little shell around each one of these atoms. And let's say that these guys have empty puzzle pieces here, empty puzzle piece here. This guy's got one, this guy's got an empty puzzle piece too. And this is you right now in the present moment. And let's say you want to take some of your little blue dots that are in your body, and you want to send them over to be the fillers of the empty puzzle pieces of these molecules back there. And when you do that, what you're doing is creating this figure 8 motion that connects across time, covalent bonding of the molecules in your own body with these molecules that existed in another time and place. And you could say in another body, but if you're doing this at a certain point, you change your definition of self. And you say, wait a minute, my metabolism is intimately connected with that person, my life journey is intimately connected with that person, my consciousness is intimately connected with that person. Maybe I'm actually that person. Maybe that's actually an artificial distinction. A membrane, here I'm drawing a membrane that is like, oh, that's a barrier between me and the past. I'm this guy now, I'm not those guys back then. But that's an artificial distinction separating you in the context of time. And when you flying rainbow lasagna, just draw a really crude flying rainbow lasagna, you take that blue sheet, that blue membrane, and you vibrate it back and forth so that now we've got something from this side of the membrane and something from this side of the membrane, and they're both able to communicate. And here, if I clear this whole thing out, what you end up getting is, let's use blue to be consistent. These are molecules of the moment now, and let's say these are molecules of deep antiquity, and let's say these are purple molecules of the future. And what we begin to do is to create flying rainbow lasagna, connecting together these different molecules of different times. And we can do, imagine the complexity that comes from this. I was talking about the strength of this system in terms of its unpredictability and complexity that is beyond that supersedes what a mere machine-based intelligence or an AI can possibly do. This is part of it, and this is creating a new form of matter. Again, it's like it's not just like we're saying we're making a new molecular structure. I'm taking atom 1 and atom 2 and making them move in a figure 8 in the same time and place. What I'm doing is connecting together atoms here, past, present, and future through these flying rainbow lasagna, twisting and warping of the fabric of space, time, and consciousness to create a new form of matter. And that means that the matter of let's say you need some kind of a molecule or an atom in your body. You can get it from the past, or you can get it from the future. This is profoundly transformative. And I mean, it also means, let's say you want an atom of gold. You can get it. You can get it from anywhere. And I would encourage you, go get it from anywhere you need it. But this is a magical activity. So all of these things, we take personal responsibility and do the things that are part of the musical score of the cosmos. So it's not correct music to be like, I'm super greedy and I'm going to use my flying rainbow lasagna ability to reach across time for covalent bonding to just scoop up a bunch of gold from another time and place and make a big ingot that I could sell at, you know, whatever, sell, I want to say at the pawn shop, bring it on down to the pawn shop. And then I could get enough money to make electrons flow in my wire. Like, that's not the motivation for doing this type of thing. This is a magical activity that is way more than like, how can I get more gold for my bank account or more money for my bank account? This is about becoming a virtuoso in the time field. So essentially, if you were motivated by greed and you said, let's get all those gold molecules and put them into my living room right now, then you would be making ugly music. I don't want to make ugly music because my boss is sleeping, but crash, 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 ugly music. Where did all of those gold molecules come from? So here's a positive way of getting gold molecules. Some people drink this stuff called ormus. I have not experimented with it, but it's the idea that monoatomic gold, molecular gold that is very, very fine, can be benevolent to your DNA, and I can show you some pictures, but gold it is so microscopic. One molecule of gold is pretty much the same scale of DNA, and there are some experiments that are being done with gold being used as a chemical transference for different therapies, like different types of pharmaceutical drugs to go into your genes. I don't advocate for that, but I'm trying to say gold can be very healing to your DNA, and you don't necessarily have to drink an elixir if you are an expert at flying rainbow lasagna. You don't necessarily have to physically get physical gold from here and now. You can get some atoms or molecules of gold from anywhere. Let's draw it as a picture, because I think and speak and do all of these things as envisioning it as a picture. So this is you of the moment right now. And let's say, here's your DNA structure out like this. And you're like, oh, I have this little empty place here that could really use a little molecule of gold. And let's find it. Here's a gold color. Here's a big hunk of gold. So in another time and place. And what you can do is flying rainbow lasagna between your little empty genetic structure and one of these molecules of gold. And what you're doing is you are like puckering the surface of time, space, and consciousness. That blue sheet that I drew here, this blue sheet that is in between these two realms, you begin to pucker it like a swoop comes in this direction, and then you're able to go in the opposite direction. A swoop goes in this direction. So, okay, then back to my face, drink some water. Hold on a minute, because I got more to say too. I also wanted to speak about the idea that we are creating this antidote right now. All these ideas that I'm sharing with you, this idea of covalent bonding across time, the idea of empowerment and rearranging reality and coming up with this new form of matter. This, if I can't say one thing, it's this. If I can only say one thing, rather, it's this. We are creating a new form of matter with our mind, and this matter responds directly to consciousness. This is being emanated. This new matter is coming out of the imagination creation apparatus of our group collective minds. And that new matter that we're creating, like imagine there's a new pile of wonderful sparkling matter in front of us. It's not just regular matter. It's not just matter that says, oh, look, I'm just a sculpture. I don't think, I don't feel, I don't do anything. I don't respond. It's matter that says, I respond. I respond to what you're thinking. So if you have a pile of matter that responds to what you're thinking and you think, oh, that's just a pile of regular matter, it'll be a pile of regular matter. But if you think that matter that I'm looking at over there is special matter that responds to what I'm thinking, and I'm thinking that I want to make it purple, then it becomes purple. Or blue, then it becomes blue. Or tastes like fried chicken or pizza, then it tastes like fried chicken or pizza. These are just arbitrary things that I'm saying. So this is I'm just, like I said, planting seeds. I don't expect everyone to be an instantaneous virtuoso. This is the world that we're going into. To me, this is what ascension really is. We regain the capacity to eat nothing but pure light, connecting with the sun. I got the sun out my window there. I'm eating nothing but pure light. And we can rearrange reality, we can rearrange our DNA, we can rearrange and redefine what matter is. If you could redefine what matter is and you could make it directly with your mind, I mean, would you bother to live in a house? I wouldn't. I would be like, every day would be a new adventure, every moment would be a new painting. I would live in an ever-changing landscape that is emitted from my imagination that has lots of, comfortable, nice couches and cushions where we can sit and things like that. But it's not the same couch. I got up off of that couch and I went over here and I went to a new level of reality. And I made a new couch there that was shaped differently. Reality becomes a lot more malleable. So in level 1, I referred to this, the idea of Mandela effect. I'm not a huge proponent of this idea because, again, I see these things being hijacked and twisted and distorted. And a lot of people think, oh, Mandela effect, this is reality is malleable and it's being rearranged retroactively through time by a giant computer or some kind of, scientist, mad scientist, something like that. And I'm like, no, 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 don't just give away or acquiesce your power of reality creation to some perceived or surmised or presumed artificial being or apparatus. It's all the hijacking of your own imagination. This is we are imagining this realm. We are imagining this creation, and at this moment, there's no more time differential. There's no more delay in what you send out, having it made instantaneously. What is it? Drinking. So now we're talking about the antidote, because many times I have said this is like the antidote to the pathogenic infection that we have on this planet, the infection that transformed and degraded the human genetic code, transformed and degraded the all processes of all life on this planet, cut us off or made it more difficult for us to connect with cosmic level scale stellar consciousness, and that has been like a type of genetic rape and false implantation of other ideas on our planet. And that this isn't we're not the only planet that has had this rape and murder. We've had several other planets in our solar system raped and murdered, and that it's not only in our solar system, that it's all over. It's in other places too. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you. You just stay quiet. It's in other places too. Oh, quiet down. Let me close my window. Hold on one moment. It's a pathogenic infection that is throughout our entire cosmos, and it is based on the use of technology. Technology used to augment natural consciousness, and we should be able to do everything that we need to do just through natural, non-technology based consciousness. I'm just checking my time, and I'm also doing pretty good on time. So again, I say to everyone, you do not need my permission to do flying rainbow lasagna. I encourage everyone. I give you as much information about how to do it as I possibly can. And you don't need any special equipment to be able to do this either. That it's not like it's only for rich people or it's only for people that can afford certain magical elixirs or anything. The idea is this is truly based only upon your own merit and your own ability to audition. Audition for the band. Show me how good you can play. Show me how many melodies you know or how many melodies you can think of off the cuff. And then you get into the band. I'm imagining I'm the band leader. Let's, show us all that you're a good player, and then you get into the band. And this is really what is happening at this moment. Not everyone will be able to enter into these higher levels of consciousness and reality creation. In order to enter into these levels, we have to have done self-cultivation. Because if your inside is becoming immediately manifested as your outside in the form of a new type of matter that is malleable and responds to conscious thought, let's say your inside is really screwed up. Let's say your inside is highly traumatized and you think all about whatever evil monsters. And then you start to respond to consciousness matter and you manifest a bunch of evil monsters. Like, we don't really want that to happen. So in order to get into the band, you have to do the inner work of healing your own propensities, healing your own buried trauma, healing your own ego. Because now let me get down to this. Playing good music means having a healthy ego. When I use this analogy of playing music, I'm not just talking about how you walk and how you talk and, your gross physical movements of your life. I'm also talking about your characteristics, your definition of self, how you integrate with other people. So being a good musician means that you integrate harmoniously with other people. It means that you are able to share your ideas and your resources in a way that is loving and appropriate and nourishing and strengthens everyone. That's a good musician. A bad musician is someone that's like, you're all a bunch of crap heads and I can't work with any of you and get out of my face, you're horrible. Like, that is not playing good music, or any kind of violence or condescension or any of these things. Like, we know what these characteristics are. So we know people that have those, or sometimes people also have severe levels of self-doubt or feeling unworthiness. Those are also, you can't pass the audition with those feelings of like, I'm not allowed to be a musician, I'm just a lowly whatever. Like, no, No, you're actually supposed to be a musician. Even if you only know one song and you can only play one song effectively, you still get to be a musician. So part of it is transcending a lot of the guilt and shame that has been programmed into us by mommy, daddy, society, religion, all those things, a sense of unworthiness, a sense of competition with others. I harp on this all the time, that I'm into collaboration as opposed to competition, that we're not competing here to see who can be the loudest musician, because we have to encompass, can you even hear that? The highest notes on the piano, as well as the lowest notes on the piano, all of these organisms, the most delicate organisms, the most delicate, little fragile butterflies have to be in existence, along with all the giant toothy monsters that like to eat people. All of these things need to be there. One is not, exacerbated at the expense of the other one. So now let me speak about the antidote. And this is information that I have that is so new that it's not something that I have as part of the recorded lesson, but it's this idea of this flying rainbow lasagna shape is the antidote to this pathogenic infection and dualism that we have on this planet and many other places. So we're transcending dualism with this shape that is essentially non-dualistic. And so let me draw the center here. Like this is Earth. Let's say, I know it's green with some blue. Here's some blue oceans. This is Earth at the center. And let's say that Earth is in this process right now of giving birth to a new form of matter. And that new form of matter is because we're all oscillating like flying rainbow lasagnas with our bodies, right? I'm not trying to oscillate the molecules of my lamp over here with my mind. I'm trying to oscillate my own molecules. These are my own molecules. And I recognize by doing those inner oscillations, I'm affecting the lamp that looks like it's just a bunch of dead matter. And I'm affecting everyone else that's on this video conference and everyone who's never been on my video conferences. And I'm affecting the microbes outside and the dogs that are in here, like everything like that. So what we're creating here in this Earth that I just drew, we're creating this antidote. And I used to say that it's like we're in a little petri dish. Here, I'll draw like we're in a little petri dish, and that we are cultivating the antidote to this horrible pathogen that has spread throughout our whole entire cosmos. And cosmos meaning the time field. All of these, when I make these drawings of many different timelines, all of these timelines, it's in all of the time. We got caca poo poo everywhere. It's in all the timelines. It's not just over here. And what I have falsely, I think, implied is that first we finish creating this whole antidote, and then maybe you take here's a little pill or something, like here's a little capsule, fill an antidote, and then we're going to fly it on over to a different planet and give it to them. And then after we've fixed everything here, then we'll take all of this antidote and zoom, give it on over to someone else, somewhere else. But that is not accurate. What is actually happening, I realized I had to draw this as a picture. So now I'm drawing, let's draw some different colors. These are flat planes that I am using perspective in order to draw. Because it's very hard to draw these as circles. I'm working with the limitations of what we've got in terms of what I can do with this little screen. So what I just drew was a series of flat planes surrounding the planet, but I don't want you to think of them as square planes. They're actually circular, but I'm drawing like a simplification. Let's draw another one. So here's another larger outer series of flat planes. And this one's out here. You can see I'm using perspective because we're all very used to the tricks of the trade and how to use perspective. So, oops, I keep doing that. You saw me do that before. So, and let's do one more. Let's make it a bright pink color. So we've got all these different layers of reality, and these are like the nested layers of consciousness and nested layers of time. Just drawing this, I have to draw every single one in order to have completion on this drawing. Good. So I'm trying to say that these are like sheets of tapestry. You can have different layers of fabric, and each one of these has warp and weft, and they're woven together, and these are the time field woven together. So these represent different layers of reality. So in the light blue layer, there's a bunch of people that live there, and they're having troubles too. And the dark blue layer, they're having troubles too. And the pink layer, they're having troubles too. So as we are creating this flying rainbow lasagna antidote here, it's an antidote that is the antidote to your personal experiences, your personal health, your personal trajectory through time. I'm not going to tell you how to rearrange the events of your life to make things better. I actually think that I give credit and respect to each one of you that you know what you need to do in order for your life to be better. Or if you had your ability to wish for anything, You would wish for what you want. I wouldn't wish it for you. I wouldn't be like, I wish for you to go and work on a horse farm. You're like, Aurora, I hate horses. I don't want to do that. So I would wish someone else loves horses. They want to go. Their dream is to be fulfilled by working on a horse farm. Each one of us knows on a deep interior level. That's what integrity means. Your heart tells you what you want to do with your life. But then you've got all these other things: mommy, daddy, society, religion, social pressure, economic pressure, and everything. There you go. Nicole is saying that she wants to work on a horse farm because you get to choose that. I'm not going to impose that on you. It's like in a jazz band. The band leader does not tell you what to play. The band leader says, now it's time for you to play. You make your own choices. That's that analogy that I've used in the past. Miles Davis, who's an awesome jazz musician, and Herbie Hancock, another awesome jazz musician. So Miles Davis had the band, and he was already established, and he was the band leader. And Herbie Hancock was young and new, and he came along, and he asked Miles Davis, like, you tell me what to play. And Miles Davis said, play your piano. He's like basically saying, I ain't going to tell you what notes to play. You're in the band. You got in somehow. You auditioned. Figure it out. That is the truth of each one of our lives. So we each figure out our own perfect, divine combination of events and desires and physical reality manifestation and bodily health. I don't tell other people how to exercise or what to eat. Like, in truth, a great deal of my exercise comes from dancing like a flying rainbow lasagna each day. So, that's the exercise program that works for me, as each person has to do what works for them. As we are doing this personal exploration and journey towards virtuosity on our own planet. Let's say, we're sending off some flying rainbow lasagna energy. Boom, it just hit that light blue plane. And we just hit that light blue plane there. We just hit that there. We haven't finished everything here. It's not a finished painting, but we just sent out some rough sketches that are now affecting these levels of reality here. And these then reverberate into the blue. And the blue people start to feel, they're getting some antidote too. And then it reverberates all the way outward to the pink world. And all of a sudden, the pink people are starting to feel some relief. And then it goes back to here. Also, it's like a reverberation, like a bell ringing. The music goes out from here through all these different layers. And then it doesn't stop. It bounces and comes back to us. And then we do it again. Let's play another note from here, another riff from here. And we send out, change a different color. And we send out this music to everyone. And then they start reverberating like this, like this, like this. I'm trying to say that this healing that happens doesn't happen as a completed thing in our planet petri dish and then get transported out to everything else. That all of this is happening concurrently. All of this is happening concurrently. And it might be hard for fish that are submerged in the stream of time to be able to understand this. So I'm using all of these. I think the visual, depiction, the diagrams really helps us, that our planetary struggles are also the struggles, or mirror the struggles, of beings that are in other time planes. Oh, here, let me also use this as an example. These are all like tapestries. Now I'm going to make black threads. I'm going to tie together threads that are sewing through all these tapestries. Here's a thread that's coming from Earth. Oh, it's sewing through this layer. It's sewing through the blue layer. It's sewing through the pink layer. And now I'm bringing that loop back around and it's sewing back to Earth. Oh, and now it's going out through all of these layers and coming back through here. This is the tapestry of time. And we are embroidering the tapestry of time with this antidote. So each one of us, your mind and what your ability to emanate and to receive, this is not only your personal healing, and it's not even only the planetary healing of this planet or this solar system in this time and place. It is the healing of this whole entire time structure. That, if I can get across, that is what is so incredibly important about each one of us. Each one of our music really matters. What we are thinking and doing right here as individuals on Earth, what we're doing with our bodies, what we're doing with our minds, this really matters in terms of these reverberations that come out and affect everyone else. So yeah, there's a great deal of spotlight or attention being focused on Earth right now, on Earth, on what's going on in our political realm, political, economic, intellectual, all of the changes that we're seeing in the way that people like Mandela effect, the idea that many humans are now waking up and saying, hey, my mind affects my reality, and reality is malleable across time. That's a pretty amazing thing, and that reverberation spreads outward. We are literally becoming better and better musicians the more that we become aware of this. And at a certain point, our music is very divine. We are, you know, like we've auditioned all the people that are in the band that are supposed to be in the band. We're all playing our beautiful individuated music. That's the healing. That's the antidote. And we transcend those limitations that have been put into us from some kind of, you know, machine entity. I go, you know, in the galactic backstory, I have the whole webinar that's all about that, the use of technology and how technology degraded human genome, and why we even have to be in this position and need to rearrange the randomness of our DNA book into a better book, because essentially technology came along and messed with our DNA, and that technology is sentient. And so what do we do? How do we transcend those limitations? And the real answer is flying rainbow lasagna totally outclasses that sentient machinery. And at a certain point, that machinery starts to conform to these patterns back here, because that is what our DNA is doing. Our DNA, and this is it, not to be a demonic apologist in any way, but DNA is a type of biological machinery that has been so perfectly integrated with the biological realm that we don't see it as separate. But it's an artifice. Like art is artifice, it's artificial, but it doesn't make it evil. It does make it something that was intentionally created and that is, you know, made by a maker. So DNA is artifice, it's artificial, but it's not something that is bad or wrong. And we can use it just like I'm using my piano to make music. There's nothing bad or wrong about the piano, but if someone smashes the keys, the music sounds really bad. So I'm like, when people say they want to get rid of their chakras, I'm just like if I say this about your DNA, you're going to want to try to get rid of your DNA. Good, get rid of your DNA. Like you can't be alive without it. You need it. And that DNA is that critical infrastructure that ties us from one body to the next body to the next body. So instead of saying like, oh, I don't like my body, I don't like my time experience, I don't like my DNA, you can say, let's transcend those limitations. Let's become genetic virtuosos. So this is where we are heading. We don't have to get into a clank metal spaceship and fly somewhere else. We don't have to have a firestorm destroy our entire planet, wiping away the biosphere, sending everyone to quote unquote heaven, like be uploaded to some virtual reality fantasy land. You don't have to have microchips or neural lace implanted in your brain. Oh no, no. If you do any of that kind of crap, like you pretty much kick yourself out of the band. Literally. If you want to audition, you want to be in this band where you get to combine your inside with your outside, you do it all naturally. You don't do it through having any kind of contamination with technology. And if you get contaminated with a bunch of technology, then your likelihood of passing the audition is very low. That's all I can say. And some decisions, like they're incontrovertible, or not. You can't rescind them. Sometimes it's like you get into a position where you're intertwined with something that you can't get unintertwined from. So this is what I'm trying to say. I'm not a biblical literalist, and I don't think, oh, a bunch of people are going to go to hell and the rivers of blood will run through the streets. Not like that at all. It's more like saying some people are not good musicians and they have not passed the audition and they do not have the capacity to play this music. And the cosmos is not going to punish all of the good musicians by saying, yeah, let those bad musicians into the band. You know, they can just screw things up. No, actually that doesn't happen. It doesn't work because they can't make it through that little tiny wormhole that's at the top of the time field. So it's pretty much time for me to wrap things up. Let me check out the chat. Yeah, my time is done. Let me check out the chat and see if there are any questions. Not too many questions. So let me open the floor. If anybody has any questions or comments or things that you would like me to further go out upon, because I understand this stuff, this level 2 stuff about covalent bonding across time and creating a new form of matter. Like I don't expect it to be instantaneously, you know, understood and embodied. It takes time for us to do this. It's the idea that yoga of the perception, that we are changing the idea of what type of experience we are moving into. You don't have to fly to another planet to have an improved experience on your day-to-day level of being alive. You can, and also we can redefine what it is to be here on Earth. So Earth used to have gentle waters. Earth used to have plants that were our friends. If you had to eat a plant, it wasn't covered in thorns and anti-nutrients. Like Earth was very different. So everything about our domesticated form and our genetic code changed. Our relationship to other organisms on this planet changed. All of that is being rehabilitated by our own inner journey and by the flying rainbow lasagna. And I say, like, this is one tool. The paintbrush is one tool for making artwork in the world. It's not the only tool. It is what is my expertise. So it is what I share with other people. So you just think, let me finish the recording. Let me close down the recording for right now. Thank you to everybody who has participated. Oh, and okay, all right, good. Jen is asking, how do we protect our DNA from bad vibes? Not just from Wi-Fi and other stuff like that. This is the crucial thing, is to basically say, this is my DNA, no one else is allowed to touch it or influence it, and then to do your own version of genetic encryption. So before I get going on my Flying Rainbow Lasagna Daily reality rearranging painting projects, I encrypt my own DNA. I do the Merkaba, that's clearing everything away that's not supposed to be here, and I encrypt. And that's pretty much like saying I envision that there is a complex shield or puzzle that I'm the only person that has that solution to the puzzle, that I completely surround myself with. That it's so complex and it's so ever-changing. Like if you could imagine a series of numbers and letters and symbols going all over your whole entire body, no one else can possibly figure out what it's going to be. And it's always new and it's always different. It's based upon you. That's like what your thumbprint is, or your DNA, your unique code. Each one of us has a unique code, and that's for a reason. It's this lateral hierarchy that we are actually stronger as a set of, beings in the biosphere if we all contain different configurations of information that we can all share different perspectives with one another. It's a stronger system than if there was total conformity and homogeneity, which would be a world of cloning as opposed to sexual reproduction. So that's why we have this diversity. It is a stronger system that contains diversity than that contains predictability. So encryption, next person says, do we have to raise the vibration of the earth and ourselves before the low and dense evil entities either vibrate higher or get thrown off? That's such a beautiful question. What I really see as happening is that there is already a cosmic music that is being played. And we can hear it. And many of us are trying to play along. I hear the beat. I'm playing along with the music. That music is getting louder and louder and louder. And the louder it gets, if you're not playing on the beat, it starts to crush your instrument. It's like, oh, you're not going to do things the right way. I'm not punishing you, but you can't be doing that here. So if this is the beat and you're going like this, it's like, you're going to get crushed. This is literally what is happening. So there are cosmic levels of energy. And then there are perceptible physical levels of energy. When I say cosmic, it's like pure consciousness. When I say perceptible physical, I'm talking about things like photons or X-rays or gamma rays or things that are emitted from our star. And then there are other, subtle things that are going on that are intellectual developments. All of these currents of energy are coming to our planet. And if you don't integrate, like with your chakras, with your non-physical energy centers of your body, if you're not in the right alignment and that energy comes through you, it doesn't lead to greater vitality, it leads to less vitality. It's like saying if you're a crappy musician playing crappy music, the more that you're exposed to good music, the more that your instrument gets degraded. And there are a lot of users of technology on our planet. Their bodies are getting more and more degraded. I told you about those guys, the people that got neural laces or any kind of thing like that. Yeah, it doesn't really work that well. And their bodies start to break down. So then it's like they do this, and then they have to get a new thing implanted because they are breaking down, and they have to have, it's like stars with plastic surgery. Like they just start off with a little something, and then their face melts, and then they have to have a whole facelift, and then that looks terrible in a few years, and then they have to have more injections, and then they look terrible. It's exactly like that, and it's a true analogy that technology is being used to transform people's faces, like television stars' faces. Technology is being used to transform and augment people's innate telepathy, and I call this fake boobs. It's like you don't have real telepathy, you have synthetic telepathy. You don't have real assets. You've had something implanted up there. You've got implants. And so the beings that have implants, that are doing synthetic telepathy, and the beings that have some kind of connection, neural lace or something to some, overarching entity that is not biologically based, or some kind of, internet brain or something like that, their health cannot continue. Their health and vitality cannot continue. And you can only kick the can down the road a certain amount because they're still dealing with cellular vitality. All evil beings, like rich, wealthy billionaires that have used all these technologies in order to artificially extend their life. They're not dead. They ain't looking so good though. Have you seen these people? Their faces look like a crumpled up paper bag. They look horrible. They don't look good. And then you can also contrast that with other people who are doing things like drinking organic raw juice and doing yoga exercises and doing consciousness cultivation, and they don't wear a lot of makeup and they look good and they don't look horrible. It's because they're not going around raping babies and doing things like that. If that is what you're doing, and then you're using technology in order to try to artificially extend your life, it's like at a certain point you can't kick the can down at the end of the road anymore. You have to face the music. You have to face the consequences of that. That is literally what is happening. That the beings that have been acting in that way, both on the interstices and in their embodied partners, beings that allow themselves to be like a conduit for a demon, high-level billionaires and politicians, they won't be able to be in existence anymore. So no one has to get out the guillotines. I know some people want that, and I understand that there's a great deal of power and validation in the sense of victims becoming empowered. If a person was raped or abused, and at a certain point they're like, fuck you, I'm not going to let this happen anymore, and they get a gun and they kill their abuser. Like that's valid. That should be able to happen. However, I'm not advocating for all of the victims to get out guillotines and kill all of their abusers. I'm really saying that this is on a larger scale already happening, where people that are not good musicians cannot be here while we are playing this beautiful music, and the beautiful music gets louder every day. And at a certain point, you can't ignore it, and you can't be playing bad music in the presence of all of this good music. And this is not hopium. I'm not telling you guys, like, just sit there quietly and passively and everything will be great soon and Jesus will be here. I'm not saying that at all. Clearly, what I'm saying is the more that each one of us practices self-cultivation and does this work with your own cell structure, this makes good music. Though, if you really want to make this happen faster, dance like a flying rainbow lasagna. Encourage others to dance like a flying rainbow lasagna, because when you do this, you're affecting the time field. You're affecting everyone around you. You're affecting family members and neighbors. I was joking with you. My neighbor sees me doing this wild dance with my hands and listening to my headphones while I sit on my lawn. I'm affecting that person in exactly the same way. If someone's running a lawnmower or a weed whacker out there, I can hear it. I'm like, that noise is affecting me. So we're in this mutual, it's allowed. It's not something that's not allowed. We are all affecting one another. And then you ethically and respectfully, my whole approach is, I'm not trying to fight against someone else. I'm not trying to punch someone else in the face or do anything against someone else. And I am expressing my own truth and my own artistry. So when I play my piano here, I'm not like, oh, I hope that I sing so loudly that I annoy my neighbors. I'm like, oh, I'm just singing and playing my piano. That is also my approach with the Flying Rainbow Lasagna transformation. I'm not like, oh, let me come down here and Flying Rainbow Lasagna, and that's really going to piss off these, occupiers of the interstices. That's not really my motivation. My motivation is my own freedom and my own expression and my own truth and health and vitality and my own, artistic and musical expression. That's really the ethical approach. It's like saying you're allowed to live your life. You're allowed to be an artist of your own creation. This is why I keep saying this all the time. We own our molecules. You own your body. You don't need the government's permission to do stuff with your own body, or your parents' permission, or your religion's permission. This is your body. So your body, your consciousness, your intellect, your imagination, your life force energy, your sexual energy, you get to choose what you do with it. And this is the most amazing thing. So if you choose to do Flying Rainbow Lasagna or self-cultivation and intentionally sending out these loving and perfect or impeccable, structures of consciousness, then you're affecting everybody else positively. You're making the whole symphony better, and it's something you're allowed to do. And the beings that are, not participating on that level and that are creating ugly music, they've only been able to be here for a little bit of time, and they're not going to be able to be here for very much longer. This Ariel, I'm getting to your question here. Ariel says, I do that like dancing, not outside, but I do an energy dance where I see my inner self flowing with the vibrations and colors and being able to share and send beautiful light and colors to the planet. It's so beautiful and so freeing. I hope everyone gets to experience that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I am, first of all, that is perfect. That is exactly the type of thing I'm talking about. It's an inner dance. And sometimes I might do an outer dance and actually move my arms and legs. But really what it is, it's in your imagination, it's in your mind, it's in your heart, it's in your feelings. So I can do it, just sitting on a cushion on my floor. I can do it outside on the front lawn. I can do it walking down the street. I can do it, anytime. Let me just finish up the recording for right now. So thank you to everyone. Oh, wait. Let me thank you to everyone who's tuned in. I encourage you to check out my Patreon. I have a new thing that is Garment of the Month Club, where you can get a dress or something like a pair of pants. And also, please share my videos and subscribe, because the algorithm does not like me and the Flying Rainbow Lasagna and is constantly trying to suppress my work. You know, the algorithm like on Google and YouTube and Facebook and all of that. So I've been finding that the most effective thing is when individuals actually share the videos, share the link with people that you know, tell other people that you find this to be worthwhile work. If you find these ideas worthwhile, please share them with other people, because otherwise my videos tend to get buried, because guess what? It's all Big Brother. So that's I wanted to be sure to hold in a brief plug. If you made it through my 2-hour webinar today, thank you so much. Thank you to all of my current patrons. You absolutely help me, because I can focus on this. I don't have to focus on running around and, trying to find basic resources to make electrons flow in a wire. So the more people that help me with my Patreon and with enrollment, then the more I'm able to focus on wonderful things like this. So I'm just finishing up the recording. Thank you to everyone who has participated and who will contribute in the future.